Hello and welcome back to Kitchen Voyeur. This is Whole Cooking with Evan Hendricks. And today we're going to learn about grilling. Now grilling is a huge book with many chapters. We're just going to look at stovetop grilling and how to maximize flavors there since we can't take advantage of charcoal on the stove. Evan, take it away.
So the biggest thing that we get with charcoal grilling is not so much that we're cooking over heat or even that we're cooking outside, which are both fantastic things, but really that whatever it is that we're cooking, it's the process of those natural juices. So say with the meat, the natural juices of the meat dripping down, hitting that hardwood charcoal, and then the reaction that happens there, the flavor compounds that explode up into the meat. That's really what's happening with charcoal grilling that makes grilling so delicious and so appealing to so many people. So with stovetop grilling inside, it's a little bit different ballgame.
Yeah.
We don't have charcoal, we don't have the hardwood, and so we can't get the exact same effect. And so we're going to be using a flat top as opposed to the crosshatch marks, and that's to get as much flavor as possible into the piece of meat or the vegetables that we're grilling by way of surface contact. So the more surface contact we have with the meat, the more opportunity we have for browning, for the Maillard reaction to happen, for flavor to be developed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the main thing, the main difference that we have here with the indoor grilling.
Okay, so we know what we're doing and we know why we're doing it. So let's take a look at it. Show us how it's done.
All right, so the first thing I like to do, just a quick little trick to boost a little bit of flavor into whatever it is that we're cooking, since we're not outside on the charcoal grill. We don't have access to that. Lemons. Absolutely love lemons. They provide a couple of different flavor components. The first one is acid, which will actually brighten up whatever we're tasting and make it taste a little bit more like what it already tastes like. It just enhances the flavor. The other thing is there's natural sugar in here. So even though lemons are sour, there is sugar present. We want to caramelize that sugar. So I just take the lemons and I just put them straight down on the grill top. And we're just going to let these hang out and they're going to caramelize. So all that natural sugar will caramelize, the flavor will intensify, and at the end we'll squeeze that over our steak as our flavor booster. Now we have skirt steak here, beautiful cut of meat, very well marbled. You can see all the fat marbles throughout it, and you'll notice the grain is pretty notable. And so it is a little bit of a tougher cut of meat, but if we grill it high heat, quick, and then we cut it across the grain, it'll be beautifully tender. So like we said, we want lots of surface contact. So we're making sure that we're cooking on the flat top as opposed to the crosshatch. That's going to give us maximum flavor exposure.
And you recommend pre-salting this meat with kosher salt, kosher caliber salt.
Yes.
For at least 24 hours, preferably.
Yeah, I mean minimum 4 hours, 8 hours, somewhere in there. But if you can go 24 hours, if you can go 2 days, we're really going to be in a good position because again, that salt is pulling all those amino acids, the protein to the surface. It's dehydrating the meat a little bit. It's actually intensifying the flavors, which will result in a more juicy and a more flavorful end product.
Paradoxically, more juicy. Yeah.
It's a weird concept, but it's science, right?
It is.
Yeah. So what we're looking for here, we want to put it down and we don't want to mess with it. I know with grilling, a lot of times people want to be flipping stuff. They want to be checking it with their tongs. Every time you do that, you're breaking that contact with the surface area, and that's what we want to really create that nice, deep, caramelized, rich, savory, umami style flavor that we're going for here. And so since we're not outside on a charcoal grill, the more we can leave this alone, the more flavor we're going to develop. With that said, you want to pay attention around the edges here. You can kind of see where we're starting to get a little bit of some char marks showing through, and we can see the meat actually turning a little bit gray. It's kind of steaming through a little bit, and that's showing us that it's cooking quickly. This is very high heat, and it's a very thin cut of meat, so we're not looking to cook it well all the way through. So after about a minute, 90 seconds, 2 minutes max, we want to start checking this and seeing kind of what we got going on here. And as you can see, we have a beautifully caramelized piece of meat there. All that brown is just flavor that's been concentrated. That is exactly what we're looking for. And even feel free to take your tongs or whatever you're using and kind of press it down a little bit. Make sure you get really good contact with that surface area. The lemons, again, we just want to let those hang out. We're not worried about them burning. The moisture content of those is so dense that it's just going to keep dripping some of the moisture down from the lemon, and the sugars are naturally going to continue to caramelize, and that is what's going to add that punch of flavor right at the very end. Now, as these steaks are cooking, you want to be thinking about if there's anything else you want to be grilling coming after that. So you can see we have some beautiful asparagus right here in season, a beautiful thing to grill. I recommend grilling things that are fairly thin. You don't want really dense, like you don't want to put a whole baked potato on a grill. You don't want to put a whole carrot on a grill. Thin vegetables that are fairly tender, and we're just really kind of heating them up and doing the same thing. We're going to add a little bit of flavor through that Maillard reaction again. So I think these pieces of meat are just about done. One of the critical components with meat is you want to make sure it rests. So for however long we cook it, that's about how long we want it to rest. And that means just what it sounds like. We just want it to hang out and relax. And since it was on a very, very hot surface, it was very intense. The juices in the meat get essentially boiling inside and they're bouncing around everywhere. We want them to just relax and really penetrate back into the fibers of the meat so that when we cut into it, it doesn't run out all over our board. So now we're ready to go on with our asparagus. You'll notice we're not tossing this in any kind of oil. We're just putting it straight on the grill. We're putting it on dry. If we were to toss it in oil, there's a chemical reaction that happens where the asparagus actually ends up getting bitter. It's a reaction to the oil, so by putting it on dry, we're going to maintain that sweetness and avoid that bitterness that a lot of people associate with asparagus. At this point, we're going to check and see how our lemons are doing. That is absolutely perfect. Exactly what we're looking for. All those sugars have caramelized. We have that same Maillard reaction. At this point, I just take my tongs, and for the sake of keeping the seeds out of it, we'll just kind of squeeze it
Squeeze it upside down. Yeah.
over the top of the meat. And then we'll save the second guy for the asparagus, which the asparagus, really, really quick cooking. Spring vegetable, very, very tender. You can eat it raw. So really, we're just kind of looking to heat it through and get just a little bit of a char on it. How well done do you like your asparagus?
Oh, I like it al dente.
Al dente. I think we're going to call it good.
Looks good to me.
So at this point, our asparagus, we're going to bring it off the grill. Let it rest for just a second. And at that point, we can begin to add whatever we want. Sometimes I'll add oil. Sometimes I like just salt and a fresh squeeze of that caramelized lemon. That last guy there. So we'll take this caramelized lemon, squeeze it all over the top. A little pinch of our salt. And that is grilling indoors.
I love it. So there you have it, folks. One of the ways of increasing or complexifying the flavor of a stovetop grill, even though you'll never quite get to where you want to be maybe with a charcoal grill, you can at least amplify flavors by adding things to the grill and seasoning them. Here we had caramelized lemons to do that job. And always remember to salt your meat ahead of time, and always remember to let it rest about as long as you let it cook. And that's a wrap for this episode of Kitchen Voyeur. Thanks for joining us. Next time, we'll go in detail about sautéing. Stay tuned.